Alright, upon the request of literally no one, I am playing Persona 5 Royal. You can tell because there's this fucking stupid My Palace shit at the bottom of the menu, and everything is back to being in Japanese, like the good old days. So what we're doing here is I put up a video while back on my channel of me going through Kamoshida's Palace on hard in a single day with no like SP items or anything to, or New Game Plus or anything to assist, in order to show off the strategy in a manner that I think is the most appropriate like level of challenge, because it's just the right amount of difficulty that you can really stretch the strategy for. And so I've been playing through Royal as I expected. I have not really been enjoying it. It's pretty fucking boring. I haven't gotten past the... I'm not that far in. Like, my actual save is, like, about 25 hours in. Which is not very far at all. It's just boring. It's just boring to play, because hardly anything is actually changed or added. Like, as far as I can tell, the vast majority of the content is in the third semester after the end of the game, which means that, playing through all this shit is just dull as hell. So anyways, yeah, it's mostly the same. Honestly, like, the vast majority of the changes are just tiny little cutscene additions or totally meaningless, like, kind of jarring, just minor changes in visual effects. Like, a loading screen will be faster here. They added a different particle effect for this thing here. Like, that's basically the majority of the changes. It's really, like, kind of a lazy, shitty port. So yeah, currently I wanted to do this to demonstrate some of the gameplay changes, such as what I'm doing here, which is honestly most of the game right now, which is the changes to guns. So you get one clip of full ammo for each character every single fight that you enter. You just get a clip of ammo. As far as I can tell, that's literally the only restriction, is that it's just once per fight. But yeah, guns still, like, one full clip of gun bullets still gonna do more damage than your default attack, but it's still technically not spending any resources, because, you know, you just get more bullets after each fight. Which means that it's fundamentally poorly designed, because this is a game in which, like, you do a bunch of fights, but, like, the actual challenge of it is getting to the end of, like, a sequence or a palace, you know, stretching your resources as far as they'll go. And so having any sort of strong ability that its only limitation is that it can only be used once per fight is fundamentally poorly designed for this sort of a game, because the majority of fights are incredibly short, and usually you're making a mistake if you're even letting the enemies get a turn at all. So you only need one turn in, I want to say, like, 95% of the fights, which means that just having bullets do this much damage is completely fucking broken. One change I don't know if I like is that when you go into a palace, you now start with the percentage level, I forget what it's called, the alert level, is now starting at a pretty high value, whereas previously, like, you would almost never encounter it because you need to get seen by enemies. I mean, like, the system itself was never that good or well designed to begin with. So, I guess it's fine. It doesn't really matter that much. It has some minor changes because it's significantly easier to get an ambush. Oh, wait. They're wasting my time. Yeah, okay, there we go. I couldn't tell. It wasn't a loop. Yeah, it's slightly easier to get an ambush if your percentage is at 0, because you have to be, like, right at their back in order to get, yeah, there's some other new mechanics here. Like, this is a smoke bomb or some shit. Not entirely sure what it does. Seems unnecessary. Like I said, you're still not going to be getting spotted by the enemies. You're no more likely to get spotted by the enemies in this than you were in the original, so it's still basically nothing. But, I mean, one thing you can do is beat most of the fights in this dungeon without spending a single resource. I am not spending any resources, and I'm still getting, like, XP, money, all sorts of shit. Which is pretty broken. I mean, it isn't, like, inherently poorly designed. See, if my alert level wasn't at 0 there, I wouldn't have been able to ambush that guy. But anyways. Some of the things have been rebalanced. For example, these enemies now have significantly more health than they did, or a bit more health than they did in the original. Because they're a bit more bulky, so that, I mean, but you can still just kill them without spending any resources before they can do anything, so it's like, it doesn't really matter. It's not completely balanced out. But, yeah, I mean, the bullets thing isn't an inherently shitty design, and it does sort of readjust the game balance between the characters, because it suddenly, like, An becomes, like, the heaviest hitting character without spending resources, because her gun has the most ammo per clip, and it still does about the same damage, it's just that you can't aim it. So yeah, she does a lot of damage now. Also, there's some other weird things, like, for no actual reason, just completely arbitrarily, I wasn't allowed to hit the start button to rush that fight, which I prefer to do rather than watching the attack animations. It's just faster to hit rush. For some reason, I just wasn't allowed to in that fight, because it was like a fight that started with a cutscene. So I wasn't allowed to use the rush mechanic, which is bizarre. A lot of weird, like, shitty changes to the game. Yeah, I mean, I'm still here. I have not spent a single piece of anyone's health bar or SP. I mean, like I said, it wouldn't be as terrible if you just rebalanced it so that you couldn't just kill all these enemies like it was nothing. If you just readjusted the health values, readjusted the damage output a little bit, it would have been fine. It still would have been an inherently bad design for a game that usually doesn't last, for a game in which fights usually don't last longer than a turn. It still wouldn't be good design to have a move or have an ability that you're only allowed to do, like, once in one turn. Because when the fuck else is that not gonna happen? Just for mini bosses and boss fights. There's some other gameplay changes that'll come up as we continue to go through the palace, but yeah. Guns are the biggest thing because they just let you beat most of the fights in this just without spending anything. I would honestly say, like, I am not the biggest fan of Golden. Let's take Persona 4 compared to Golden, right? I think Golden is all in all like a better game. It also has some similar things where the gameplay is fun. It's still fun in Golden, but there are some things that are more broken, like the amount of XP you get from Golden Hands, and some of the cards that you get at the end of fights. Like, the benefits that you get from selecting the cards in the minigame after certain fights. A lot of those things were pretty unbalanced. But, you know, for the most part, I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed the restructuring of some of the characters' movesets. Naoto became completely broken in Golden. Chie, a little known fact, but Chie is also broken as fuck in Golden. You just have to build her moveset in a specific way that is 100% reliant on critical hit rate, and then Chie becomes completely busted and can get critical hits like 80% of the time. So, I mean, but, you know, Golden has tons of shit. Golden was also on, like, a new platform. This is technically on a new platform, because original Persona 5 was technically a PS3 game, and it was just ported over to PS4. This is actually just a PS4 game. Still doesn't change the fact that I'm playing it on the same fucking console that I was the original. Whereas the original had the benefit of, you know, being on the Vita. Or Golden did. One thing that I kind of like is that, I didn't mind like, in the original, an enemy would pop up here, and then you would have to fight it. They've completely gotten rid of, like, all instances in which enemies will just sort of pop up out of the blue and attack you. Which, like I said, I didn't mind, I didn't really care, but I will admit that it does feel cleaner that shit doesn't happen at all anymore. It does feel a little bit cleaner, more fair. See, this should be a piece of armor, which is fine. Help Joker from getting one-shotted. So, I mean, yeah, like, at this point, the palace is already broken. Because I could just farm for XP literally infinitely and continue to not spend a single resource. But we're just gonna move on for now. This, I think, is a new enemy type in this game, yeah. Let's see. I think these guys are weak to wind. I don't really remember. Yep. Can probably do enough damage with bullets. Yep. God, Ann does so much damage with her gun. Also, they seem to have changed, like, the targeting reticle when you're, like, around corners looking at enemies to make it more likely that your camera will think you're targeting, like, another corner rather than an enemy itself, which is just, like, an annoying pain in the ass that makes it really stupidly difficult to just target an enemy and attack them. Lots of just weird control foibles that they somehow just made worse. Made it less smooth, less responsive. And minor changes to the actual palace's structure are in here as well. Not much choice here. Yeah. I'd be less willing to spend SP here if the game was not totally broken, and if my characters were at lower health. Because if like Morgana or An were at much lower health, I would just let them get hit and killed, because I wouldn't really lose anything in doing so. Just some time waste. Oh my god. Controls. So far in my actual playthrough, my actual save file of this, I have not reached the point where characters have, like, any moves or moveset that, like, differs from how they were in the original. So, it's still pretty boring. I mean, I've played the game so fucking much. I was really hoping for, like, more significant changes to, especially character movesets, because that would change... That's the biggest thing that would change, like, how you approach fights. There are a few gameplay additions that I kind of like that we'll eventually be getting to at some point in here. Here, let me demonstrate. Okay, so now technicals cause knockdowns. Never mind. Sometimes they cause knockdowns. What the fuck? Okay, so every single time I have used a technical, like just a regular like attack on a sleeping enemy, it has caused a knockdown and it hasn't said critical hit or done the flash. So I'm not entirely sure what's up with that. I really thought that technicals just cause knockdowns, but I can't really read the Japanese text, so I didn't know that for a fact. Bizarre, okay. Well, I would have almost preferred that to be the case. Okay, never mind. It doesn't really come up too often, so it doesn't matter. Alright, so port's even lazier than I expected. Let's see. I don't have the statistics to prove it, but I kind of feel like... Oh, come on. Yeah, I don't care about most of my characters taking damage here. Yeah, you can take as much damage as you want. So can you. Alright, we're good. The only characters that I actually want to avoid taking hits are Joker and Ryuji, because they have to spend their health... Well, because Joker needs to live. And Ryuji needs to spend his health bar to get heavier hits to kill more dangerous enemies. See, and like normally I would just hit rush here. I'm mashing the fucking start button. It's not an option. Come on. There's another... there's a few other changes. Some status effects apparently got nerfed. Sleep doesn't last as long. And I believe there was an instance that I was playing in which I applied a status effect like Confusion, and then it literally recovered before it did anything. So I don't know what the fuck is up with that. It might as well have not even happened. But yeah, I applied Confusion to an enemy, and then when it was their turn again, they just recovered and then acted like complete normal and just didn't attack. Seems kind of bullshit, but whatever. Here's this stupid grappling hook that does nothing and didn't need to be in the game. Contextualized, like, button press, like, fucking just video clips that play. So, in this version of it, these enemies, these strong enemies, like, technically count as mini-bosses now, in their functionality, which means you are not allowed to negotiate with them if you knock them down, which is a massive change. Shadow 発見。強そうだ。出張に行くぞ。暴いてやる。何者だ。Also, like, the fact that you're dealing damage through your guns rather than your regular attacks or physical skills now makes it, like, it removes, like almost all risk from all actions, because each individual attack, when you're shooting the gun, counts as a separate attack that can miss or hit. Which means that if you were to do a regular attack, it is, like, say, like a 20% chance or a 10% chance of missing. If you're shooting someone with a gun, a few shots might miss, but you're still, like, almost guaranteed to deal some degree of damage that's usually going to be pretty high. So, like, all of your risk is removed. I do believe it is no longer physically possible for you to get critical hits with guns. It doesn't seem like you can do that, but even so. Should I spend SP here? I mean, like I said, most of my characters I don't care if they get hurt, so. Oh, there we go. Come on. Well, whatever.
倒したな。正体を見せろ。
どこのモテなんだよ。よし、こちらの先生。みんな体力に気をつけたら。
選手交代だ。
まだいける。おやばね。何したらいい？あとお願いだ。終わらないぞ。敵を撃破。スカルモットだ。敵を撃破。スカルモットだ。決めざれし。覚悟してよ。残り2体。移動するな。
ヘルスラウ奪い。
おお、両感覚クイーン。
よろしく。
まだ終わらないぞ。大攻めだ。うわ、なんかヤバいのいるし。
宝箱あったぜ。
ああ、
感じるぞ。
これ
Alright, I cannot read this, so hopefully I just stumble across the solution to the puzzle. Hey! Alright. This is... okay, so this is a new mechanic I actually like. So, as far as I can tell, the way it works... Wasn't allowed to rush again. So as far as I can tell, the way it works, you know, they counterattack if you attack them. I've had them counterattack with, like, status effect moves, so it's not just pure damage. As soon as you kill them, they explode, damaging all the other allies. The explosion damage seems to be based around the damage of the last attack that you hit them with, which is bizarre and seems like shitty design. Because it inherently means that, like, if you get one big hit that clears out their health bar, it's inherently, like, more rewarding to you. because it seems to scale with baton pass, so if you baton pass multiple times, the explosion damage is buffed by the damage of the baton pass for some reason. It seems very strange, but whatever. I kind of like this mechanic because it, like, sort of restructures some of the fights, makes hurting one type of enemy, you know, inherently more dangerous, and encourages, like, structuring your offense around dealing one big hit to that enemy type, and you being rewarded in turn with damage to all the other enemies. I kind of like it. Probably becomes dumber when you get later in the game and you get more attacks that hit multiple enemies at a time, but whatever. Okay. I was curious, I knew that wouldn't, well, I didn't know that wouldn't kill, but I was curious what would happen if you hit them with, like the multi-hitting gun attacks. I didn't know if they would counterattack immediately, or, so that's why I did that. Probably should have done that with a character that I didn't mind getting hit, rather than Ryuji, but whatever. Since Ryuji's health bar actually has value, whereas Morgana's and Ann's are literally free, like, expenses. Alright, I shall now farm for some better Persona parts. So, I'll go back to the Velvet Room, forge some Personas, and then farm the early area, both for free XP, because you literally don't have to spend anything to beat all of those fights, and also for more Persona pieces. The weirdest part about that loading screen, for that transition, is that is literally the only loading screen that is there might be one other, but it's like, most of the loading screens are not any faster than they were previously, because most of the loading screens are tied directly to set animations that weren't sped up. Like the, day, you know, transition from one day to the next, or then shows, like, the date changing and then the knife coming in. All those are exactly the same speed, and thus loaded exactly the same rate, because they just didn't change the visual presentation. The subway transitions, they're all the exact same, but it's like you get that, and it's, like, bizarrely just the one thing that loads faster. Alright, we're back here. Everyone's level 8. We'll grab, the good Persona. I'm gonna cut most of that crap out. Most of the fights are just fucking point the gun at the thing and shoot at it till it dies. I can't believe they didn't nerf this Persona. I think one of the big problems with this game, I've talked about this, probably not on video, with lots of other genres of media, or just anything involving remakes, but it's like, when you're making a remake of something, you know, the problem is, it's like, well, I mean, you can literally redo anything that has already been done. I mean, like, media's that might have been a bad decision. But yeah, it's like, they'll get one-shotted anyways, even if they're blocking, so it doesn't matter. Oh, come on. And I'm still not allowed to rush in this fight? Fuck off. Yeah, he was gonna die anyways, even if he blocked. And if he had full health. Is this the right move? It is. Okay. I don't know if they would have changed that so the status effects work well on him now, but probably not. Anyways, yeah, I've talked about the idea that when you are making a remake of something that, you know, already exists, the most important thing, no matter if you're making something new or a remake of something old, you know, you need to create new ideas. Like, it's an artistic medium. People aren't paying you for the same shit that already existed that they could just literally go back and watch. So, one of the problems is, like, if you're making something that's supposed to be, like, just an improvement, not like a full-blown, full-board, like, remake of something, but just, like, a slight improvement, you know, here and there, slight, you know, betterments, just taking the ideas and refining them, that doesn't work. Because if you release a new piece of media under the basis that it is a slight, like, a more refined, just literal version of the original, then it cannot be consumed in the proper fashion. I mean, like, take for example, like, the new face portraits for all the party members. Like, in it, like, forget, like, just the fact that it's so lazy that it's just it's really glaring that it's just the party members and, like, every other character is still stuck with their original face portraits. And the glaring fact that, like, the new face portraits all look awkward and are at, like, different angles and shit. Like, making them look strange, even because, like, every single other face portrait that already existed was from, like, the face at one angle, and then all of a sudden they're throwing in these random new ones that at different angles for some reason. Like, even ignoring all that stuff, anytime you see, like, one of those face portraits that pop up that was not in the original game, you're, like, you can't just consume it forgetting the fact that it's not, that it wasn't there in the original. You know, you can't just completely forget the original and then just consume this as its own new piece of media. Your brain doesn't go, like, your brain immediately recognizes that it's different than the original and thinks, and doesn't think, you know, that's an accurate face portrait or whatever. It thinks, you know, you're immediately comparing it and saying, they decided to put this in, like, they decided to change this element from the original because they thought it was better or superior in some way. Like, any remake of anything, you're sitting there constantly thinking, well, how is this better than the original? Not really paying attention to, like, well, what is the point of the piece of media in the first place? You know, is it achieving its original goals? It can't achieve its original goals because you're not consuming it to, like, get the same, you know, consume the story. You know, you're consuming it to just see how it's different from the thing you've already seen. Is this gonna be enough? Yeah, might as well. Oh, wow. Excellent. Do I already have this for... Okay. So, I mean, that's what happens with all these little insignificant changes, like the technical. When you hit with the technical, there's a new, like, particle effect or visual effect. All these new face portraits. Like, when you go to, like, this cutscene, suddenly, the carpet is a different design or a different shade of color than the original. That someone put effort into designing a new shade of color for the carpet for this cutscene. Because they felt that it was superior to the original, I guess. It's very bizarre. And you can only look at it thinking, this is different. Why is this like this? Like, why did they put effort into making this shit? You can't just say, oh, that's a nice looking carpet in this fucking room. Yeah, the recoloring of the carpet is definitely the most egregious I've seen so far, of like really just pointless changes made that really encompass like how nothing of real substance is actually changed for the vast majority of this game. But more than that, I mean, like the most important thing for like a quote-unquote new game, because this is sold at full price. This is supposedly a new game. I mean, the most important thing when you're making anything new is that you have some sort of new creative idea. You know, like, you have to inject your own originality into something if you're going to sell it. It can't just be a slightly improved in some perception, you know, like slight refining, slight anything. No. You need to actually create something of your own in order to fucking sell it. And, I mean, it just, like, exemplifies that, you know, Golden. I didn't like everything in Golden, but Golden is so much, like, better of a worthwhile product than this is. Yeah, okay. And then I'll just use all these bullets. Golden is a much better game for like Persona 4 than this. There's tons more actually new content that's actually entertaining. Like, you know, I'm bothered by a lot of the new, whenever they try to write something serious for scenes in Golden, I'm bothered because it's not the same writers as the original, and they don't really get it, so they're making tons of crap. But, I mean, this has come up a lot recently, especially with other remakes of other things, especially like most prominently all the fucking Disney movie remakes that have been going on. I don't care if they survive. Well, I'd like to kill. Ah, damn it! I should have thought about that more. I would have liked one of them to die, but yeah, I don't mind about like that. That's fine. You die. Will you die from this? Okay, that's fine. So yeah, all the shitty Disney remakes, the like live action fucking movies that are just god awful. I mean, it's just like profiting from. I mean, fundamentally, the problem is that it's like nothing gets remade, almost nothing gets remade because there's a new idea, like a creative new idea that they want to apply. Almost all of the time, something gets remade because it's popular and will net a lot of money because the original, like, was successful and well-liked. And that's why things get remade. Which is why, you know, so many remakes don't actually have, like, good new original ideas. Oh, excellent. I'll grab this one. And, like, it's a little bit weird to compare it to this because the new content is just the shit that's added after, like, the post-game, the third semester, quote-unquote, is probably the majority of the new content in this, but it's really boring and annoying to go through the majority of this game, like, again, with very little actually changed, very little new shit. And the things that are changed or modified are like, infinitely worse than the original. As opposed to Golden, which had tons of new content all throughout the entire game. And I think a lot more new content than is even in this, like, in total, period. Based on what I've looked up from what all happens that is new. Beyond the Disney remakes, there's also, I mean, like, I take issue with the Final Fantasy VII remake. I don't have any real personal attachment to Final Fantasy VII. I feel like if I really loved, like, if I was one of the people that played the original Final Fantasy VII, like, back when it came out, really loved it, you know, really respected, like, the artistic vision of the game, which I have some friends who are like that, and I feel sorry for their loss, because they're even more infuriated by the Final Fantasy VII remake than I am. But yeah, I mean, like, if I really, like, appreciated something for, you know, its quality and its artistry, and then, you know, I just see that, like, the company hasn't, like, that was technically the publisher for it, you know, later on in the years, has no new ideas for, like, new content, so they're just like, why don't we just slap together a remake of that thing, because that was popular, with no real understanding of, you know, the original vision that the creator, you know, intended for the game, or... I mean, Final Fantasy VII has already kind of gone through that a lot with, like, Crisis Core and Advent Children and all the other just piece of shit follow-ups to FF7, like, ruining its lore, like, directly contradicting the actual vision behind the game. But, yeah. like, as someone who was not personally invested in the original FF7, even I can see, like, that it's not what the original was about. It's more like what fan fiction of the game is about. You know, it's not about the actual, you know, like I said, the vision of the original. It's more like, oh, Cloud versus Sephiroth fan fictions. You know, in the original game, like, Sephiroth didn't give a fuck about Cloud. He was just some nobody. And, you know, they didn't have this necessary, like, Cloud had an obsession with Sephiroth, but, you know, it's not presented in this, like, oh, they'll be eternal rivals forever, like how it's presented in every other piece of Final Fantasy VII media post, like, its actual creation that they just made years and years later. Just because it's something that the quote-unquote fans of FF7 like. Because it's just fan fiction. It's just fan fiction. It's just bad fan fiction. Poorly written fan fiction. That's all it is. It's like, you, like, have this certain elements of the game that you like, but, you know, you don't really get the fucking point that was trying to be communicated, so you just turn it into some like, goofy fucking... Ugh. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad stuff. I mean, like, that was my, like, opinion on that for a long time, and it basically still is, but I've recently, like, come into the idea that, like, a different perspective on, like, shitty remakes of things, like, or shitty remakes or shitty, you know, sequels to things that were actually genuinely good, that are not really, like, good, or do not actually, you know, are not actually respectful of the original source material. But they are just working on, like, what a dumbass kid would think the original source material is about if he's, like, a big quote-unquote fan of it. I mean, like, ugh. Well, like, look at how, like, the Silent Hill franchise, like, that's a good example, like, of what Silent Hill used to be versus, like, how it eventually got portrayed, and it is still to this day being portrayed by Konami. Like, oh, we just released this Silent Hill fucking slot machine with, what's his name, Murphy Pendleton, shooting zombies, like in an action, like, oh, and all the blood's going ever, oh, look at that, oh, look, he owned that zombie, that was fucking radical. Oh, the numbers, you got 777s, good for you, in this dope-ass slot machine. You know, it's just like, they're presenting, I keep wanting to say Final Fantasy, they're presenting Silent Hill, and even the later Silent Hill games are, like, thinking that Silent Hill is, like, some dude bro fucking, like, metal, like, grotesque, gory, like, horror shoot-fest thing, which it never was, and it's just, like, a complete failure to comprehend what the point was, you know? It's like, shit is being made by the company that has the rights to it, but by people that don't understand it. I mean, that's the problem with this. Where, you know, I mean, in addition to just being bad, like, I mind that it's not, like, following the same vision as the original game from its original creators. That's, like, obviously my biggest problem with it, but I wouldn't mind half as much if it was a thing like Golden, where Golden also wasn't following the original vision of the original creators. You know, Golden isn't faithful. Like, the new content, the new actually serious written content isn't faithful to what was attempted to be portrayed by the characters, the overarching themes. Anything new in Golden is not faithful at all. But Golden is still fine, because Golden is still, like, produces things that are in some degree. They might not be, like, achieving the same ends, but they're still entertaining, they're still quality. Like, most of Golden is still completely enjoyable. I mean, some of the gameplay is a bit more, like, unbalanced and broken than the original, but even so. But it's like, in this, all I've seen is just boring shit that's completely failing to keep me entertained, because so much of it is just, like, the same shit that already was there. I think I have, like, a bunch of yeah, I have this wind accessory. I'm gonna put this on, I actually do kind of like this mechanic. Let's see, I'll put it on Ryuji. That's fine. Alright, let's get ready for, this fight. Might as well heal these idiots. There we go. Oh yeah, I forgot to finish what I was talking about. So yeah, I was gonna say that, like, recently I've come into the understanding of a different perspective on these sorts of issues where, you know, and it's the same thing with, the Scorsese, like, Scorsese, like, shitting on Marvel movies. Oh, he resists it. Well, crap. Where it's basically the same concept of the defense from, I forget what his name is, but, like, the director of all the Marvel films, or someone in charge over at the people responsible for Marvel Studios, was like, you know, we understand what Scorsese is saying, criticizing our films, saying that they're, like, you know, more like amusement parks than they are, like, artistic films, that they're more about, you know, like, delivering upon, like, an emotional like, a sequence leading to a patterned emotional catharsis, rather than, you know, attempting to communicate something unique, some original idea, some personal vision. But, you know, he said that, you know, we see, like, a different value in this, where, like, there's a centralized, you know, community, like a fan following around the Marvel universe, the consistent Marvel universe. And, you know, our idea is that, you know, that's, you know, its own form of value. The fact that so many people can, you know, gather around and you know, share their mutual love of, like, this event or this thing. So that's sort of like the way I can sort of see the Final Fantasy VII Remake, where, you know, I just think it'll be bad because I don't think Square can make a good game right now. And you know, from what I've seen of it, I think it doesn't look particularly impressive. It doesn't look very fun to play. The gameplay is very worrying looking in its simplisticness, I guess. And, yeah, everything just looks concerning about, the FF7 Remake. And alongside just being really sort of eye-rolly with how they're fucking over, like, the original narrative, you know. Now it's all just about, Sephiroth versus Cloud fanfiction writing, rather than fucking anything. But, oh, they also have these weird, I have no idea, I can't read the text, so I have no idea why they're occurring, but they have weird, like, in-game achievements. I don't think they're linked directly to trophies, but I might be wrong about that since I have notifications off. Well, this'll be annoying. I don't think I have a persona on me with ice. These guys are rough. Yeah, super boss types. This version of the game seems to really want you to, like, use the escape function.
敵ダウンジョーカーすごいじゃないか今なら逃げられる大丈夫か
It really seems to, and you know, for those enemies, I have come to the conclusion that it's genuinely more... Oh, well, never mind.
この感覚セーフ
I really felt like it wasn't worth it to fight those guys because they took like every single technique that you could use in the original against strong single enemies like that and removed it. And also those enemies just literally have even more health than they did in the original, making it even more of a pain in the ass to fight them. But, I mean, it is what it is. Anyways. What level are we all? 9. Okay.
研ぎ澄ませ
あ宝
正体を見せろ
What was I talking about? Oh, right.
よし
So yeah. You know, some people see, like, value in making a... I wonder if I can grab this one. I can't read any of this, but
真面目に答えたら
I'll just hit the first option in both times. Hopefully it'll work. Yay, got it. I don't like this game. If that wasn't clear.
相変わらずすげえ力だなジョーカー
よし何か見える正体を見せろ
祝福属性が弱点だ呪音が効かないから気をつけるんだぞ
ペルソナいただいていく
早く解放してよペルソナゾロ残り2匹気を抜くなバトンタッチ
選
だぞ
手交代だうわら
Wow. Wait, what the fuck? What the hell? Okay. Bizarre. So this special, like this counterattack type, he was allowed to act. Even though I'm in an ambush, he was allowed to act before all of my party members had the chance to have a turn. Okay. Strange.
持ってるか
Fine, I guess. I mean, whatever. Wow. Very impressive.
敵は残り2体行くぞいけほらほら
This is pretty sick, yo.
逆転キットそこか
さすが
うっしお疲れ
ご苦労様
そうよ熱い技だろさてどこか
倒せたねさあ先に進もう
正体を見せろ
先制攻撃チャンスだいけ弱点は見当たらないな敵がダウンだ
ざまねえな
やってないか
ほんの気持ちです。どうでしょうか。
大勝利イエーイ。よーし勝利だな。
よし感じるぞ。正体を見せろ。
逃げないんだよ。よし。まだ終わらないぞ。
動くんじゃねえぞ。
怪しいんだけど。はいはいどうよーし勝利だな。
よし
宝箱じゃん。ラッ
暴いてやる。
よしこちらの先生だ。こいつの弱点は氷結属性。やりまーペルソナいけ
ペルソナ。ほら
See what the shit? That knocked him down. What the hell? Why didn't it knock him down earlier? Oh, why did that knock him down? Is it just like a drastic increase in your percent likelihood to knock them down when doing a regular physical attack? Is that what it is? It seems stupid as fuck. Whatever. My main character will survive the hit. Everyone else will get one-shotted anyways.
状況は食らえ。
無理をしすぎた。離脱して支援に徹する。
Alrighty.
勝利だな。
どこか研ぎ澄ませ。くそ。
どこにも出ないんだよ。よしこちらの先生だ。
食らえ。
外した。ジョーカーしっかりしろ。
There's a lot of enemies, and none of them go down particularly easily.
ゾロ自分の実力が怖いな。
任せとけって。
バトンタッチでさらに追撃だ。撃を撃破スカルモットだ。ペルソナ何しばかれたんだ。みんな体力に気をつけてな。
残り2。頼んだぜ。
終わらないぞ。パンサー
That's fine.
やっぱ
Sleep is whatever, especially on that character, so who cares?
パンサーが戦闘不能。
Oh, see? She got a one more, so she knocked down with the technical. So it seems like technical is pretty guaranteed to get a knockdown. I have literally no idea why it didn't earlier. Just to embarrass me, I guess.
すげえ力だな。
No other reason I can see.
さて研ぎ澄ませ。 てやる。よろしく。
まだ終わらないぞ。
Oh, come on. Seriously?
いくよ。
Why does it have that much health?
なんだっけ？
スカルが忘却状態。ペルソナが使えない。大爆発。さすが。了解。やっちゃうから。まだいける。みんな、体力に気をつけてな。はあ、嘘、なくない？マジ？また新たな仮面を増やしたな、ジョーカー。
暴いてやる。何者だ。潜入者とは。
危ないやつがいるぞ。みんな、体力に気をつけてな。電撃交代だ。
Alright, hopefully you do more damage.
外した。
Wow, fuck you.
いくよ。
And she was able to act anyways.
ジョーカーが冒険。
Wait a minute, was she able to act as a counterattack? Even though it missed? Did it counterattack just the fact that it tried to hit her, or was she just able to act because she ignores the ambush? What the fuck just happened? Well, I wasn't counterattacked, so... maybe they'll counterattack after the turn is over, maybe they'll counterattack... Maybe they won't counterattack if you knock them down, I have no idea. Alright, well, this is the one I have to... Well... Why can't I baton pass to him? What the fuck? Wait. Oh, I already baton passed from him. Right, I forgot. Okay. Well, I mean, let's try to get the biggest explosion possible with the damage that we can currently output. There we go.
さて、シャドウ撃破。ちょっと余裕すぎだろ。暴いてやる。
弱点は見当たらないな。
エルソナー。そこか。
敵ダウン。ジョーカーすごいじゃないか。まだ終わらないぞ。
くらえな。
みんな体力に気をつけてな。結構やばい。
今のやべえだろ。
何新技？
よし。暴いてやる。
ちょこ。
行くぞ。いただいていく。
外した。ジョーカーしっかりしろ。後悔しても怖い。結構やばめ。 みんな体力に気をつけてな。
See, that one didn't knock down.
スカルがやられた。助けが必要。
Inconsistent gameplay mechanics. Whatever.
状況はそこか。
敵ダウン。ジョーカーすごいじゃないか。
やってやる。
とどめだ。わが。
宝箱発見。早く開けようぜ。正体を見せろ。
こちらの先生だ。
来い。いただいていく。
おお、ジョーカーがクイーン。
任せ。
よし、バトンタッチでさらに追撃だ。後悔しても遅いぞ。これで終わりだ。お掃除完了。
You know, the worst part of this, the most hilarious worst part, is that I actually spent more than $60 on this, since I had to fucking buy, like, I had to buy yen to be able to purchase this from a Japanese, like, PSN,
早速は
which is, like, equates to, like, roughly spending, like, $80 total on this. Totally worth it. Yeah, that seems like a good deal. Buying 90% a game you already own, 5% taking that game and making it shittier, and another 5% shit that you have to play through like the original game in its entirety to get to. And then a 0.001% new content interspersed throughout that is ultimately meaningless and pointless, and just serves to distract you and be a glaring contradiction between how you remember the old one to be.
そこか。
みんな、体力に気をつけてな。仮面の変態のくせに。バトンでやっちゃうよ。弱点はついた。でもまだいける。結構やばめ。やっちゃうよ。みんな、体力に気をつけてな。決まったぜ。結構やばめ。
Fine, whatever. I wish Ryuji had done his job, but that's fine.
はいはい。
Still barely spent anything, so it's fine.
お疲れ。
鮮やかな勝利だ。
I mean, like, the biggest tell that this game was going to be fucking nothing is probably the fact, like, you should have probably caught on by, if you were watching, like, the character trailers up to the release of this game, like, each character trailer, or just any trailer for any mechanic or any system, you should have been able to tell by the fact that, like, almost half of the runtime of all trailers involving this fucking game were just footage from the stupid as fuck Showtime partner team-up attacks that were added into the game. Like, one tiny, pointless, stupid element of the game, and it's like almost all the runtime of all of the trailers. Should have probably tipped basically everyone off that this game was not going to be worthwhile in the slightest.
研ぎ澄ませ。結構やられたな。正体を見せろ。
Also, you might have noticed, but the cover mechanics have changed so that it now no longer locks your camera. I know a lot of people probably complain about that because it's very different from the regular game style and it's sort of awkward. But it actually controls, like, once you get used to it, you can manipulate it, control it infinitely more fluidly than you can this shit that they've changed it to, where your camera doesn't lock or change or get influenced when you turn corner and you have to slowly turn your camera manually in to look at anything, and you also can't target the enemies if they come into view. You have to make your camera look all the way off the entire area and then scroll back on in order to target an enemy. Control's great. No, it doesn't. It's so easy to beat the palace with like in one day now, like because there's no resource management in the game anymore. The guns are too broken. Other systems are fucking broken. At this point, like, I've already beaten the palace. I'm just getting up to level 11 because I prefer to have all the 11 skills before doing the boss. But, like, fuck. Did you see that? Did you see that? Makoto and Sai Nijima were standing by the train. What a nice detail. Totally worth the $80 I paid for this. Because that's what most of the game is. Pointless, dumb additions like that. Like, imagine if a game was, like, re-released, like, a great fucking game was, like, and, like, the only thing they did was, like, clean up a few textures, fix, like, 2 typos in the script. Like, what the fuck? This is like the only actually genuinely convenient thing that they added. Is this shit. And it should have been there in the original. It honestly should have. It was baffling to me the entire time that there wasn't a thing to just decide how many of an item you want to make so you don't have to watch the fucking cutscene over and over and over. That's the only, like, actually genuinely decent improvement I've seen. And it's like, fine, I get. Hey, say, look at that. See, the card appeared and the background changed color. Yep. Totally worth $80. By the same game I've already beaten 10 times, but that's the thing that's different. Who needs actually, like, new content? No, who needs that shit? Who needs something literally, like, ugh. Man, fuck this. Every single one of those, like, tiny details, like, would have been fine if it was in the original. Because, I mean, every single one of those things would just be yet another tiny little piece of attention to detail, whatever. Some of them are pretty stupid, like, their need to, like, throw in characters that you honestly, realistically shouldn't, like, run into all the time. Just in the backgrounds of cutscenes, like, oh, they just slapped in Akechi walking down the street in this cutscene. Yeah, that makes sense and isn't like a completely fucking forced, stupid thing. No, not at all. Literal, like, the only thing, like, to be completely fair, and this is the only time I will say this. I don't know for certain that like, the new content that is actually in the game, like, the third semester endgame shit, I don't know for certain that that is complete garbage. I'm just assuming that that is complete garbage, and even if it wasn't, it's a gigantic pain in the ass to have to play through the whole game with basically no changes just to get there. So it's still super annoying. But it might not be awful. It will almost 100% for certain be like just be some bizarre side story that has really nothing to do with the actual original, like, intent or ideas surrounding the narrative. So it will be very jarring and inconsistent with the rest of the story in its tone, its presentation, what it's actually thematically about. Everything about it is just gonna be like some dumbass, like, dipshit's idiotic fucking interpretation of this game's storyline. But it might not be completely abysmal, awful, fucking the worst. Or at least I don't know for certain that it is. The nicest thing I'll say about this game. And I probably already mentioned this, but in my opinion, Golden, like 4 to Golden, Golden is probably 1,000 times better than this game. For where I'm at right now, Golden is so much better of a product, of a remake, of a port of a game to a new console. Every single fucking thing about Golden is infinitely better than this piece of shit is. Oh, did I just use... Okay, no, that's fine. Okay, never mind. We're good.
Yep.
This boss fight is better than the one in the original game, but, like, who cares? Compared to the infinitely shittier dungeon and everything else dungeon design that you've had to spend, like, hours going through to get to this boss, doesn't really make a big deal. I should have given the healing thing to Morgana instead.
Come.
攻撃して鴨下の注意を引くんだ。
そこか。
全然効いてないぞ。もっとガンガン攻撃しないと作戦がバレちまう。
よっしゃ。
攻撃して鴨下の注意を引くんだ。まだまだだ。この調子で攻撃して注意を引け。やっちまえ。攻撃して鴨下の注意を引くんだ。全然効いてないぞ。もっとガンガン攻撃しないと作戦がバレちまう。やっちゃったね。攻撃して鴨下の注意を引くんだ。
奪い。
まだまだだ。この調子で攻撃して注意を引け。
ペルソナ。ほらよ。
力がやばい。攻撃して鴨下の注意を引くんだ。
そこか。
もうちょいだ。あと一発ぐらい当ててやれ。
助かったぜ。ペルソナ。
攻撃して鴨下の注意を引くんだ。
いただいていく。
全然効いてないぞ。もっとガンガン攻撃しないと作戦がバレちまう。
ペルソナ。
攻撃して鴨下の注意を引くんだ。まだまだだ。この調子で攻撃して注意を引け。
ペルソナ。
攻撃して鴨下の注意を引くんだ。さすがジョーカー。華麗だ。
ペルソナ。よし。
一斉攻撃だ。よっしゃ叩け。
Alrighty. We're done.